Welcome to The Now. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm John Reisinger.
Breaking news. You're not the only person who hates DRM. I know you thought you were alone, but you're not. In fact, other people hate it so much, they're actually suing the US government over it.
That's right, people are taking Uncle Sam to court over laws that criminalize the bypassing of digital rights management protection. And more interesting, they're arguing that such measures are actually unconstitutional.
This lawsuit was filed today by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who claims that the future of technology and how it's used is at stake based on the outcome.
I'm the only person that thinks Electronic Frontier Foundation sounds like something from Star Trek.
It sounds pretty futuristic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I like to think they chose that name on purpose.
The 32-page complaint is not fucking around and names the U.S. Department of Justice, the Library of Congress, and the U.S. Copyright Office as its chief defendants. So they definitely mean business.
Or they just want press, which they're getting right now. For the EFF, this case is about how current laws around DRM violate fair use, that in order to truly create, we need to be able to build on what's come before. They also state that we have a right to tinker with the products we own as we see fit. At the moment, the laws around DRM make both of those things illegal.
The lawsuit specifically challenges the constitutionality of Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which concerns everyone's favorite three-letter acronym, DRM. It's not my favorite acronym. I could pick up a few others.
That portion of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act states that no person shall circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under this title. It goes on to outline the criminal penalties for futzing about with DRM protection.
About DRM, the EFF, which is fantastic because it just reads F. The EFF press release states, Section 1201 has long served to restrict people's ability to access, use, and even speak out about copyrighted materials, including the software that is increasingly embedded in everyday things.
They go on to call DRM unconstitutional, saying that it violates fair use for creators and thinkers and should be done away with by the United States government and around the world.
While the original intention around DRM sounds well and good for people to protect certain pieces of software from tampering or reproduction without consent, which is what the law is put in place for, we've all seen DRM's nasty side effects when it comes to copy-protected music, movies, and games, but it actually goes deeper than that.
You remember the Sony rootkit? That was a lot of fun. Over the last 2 decades, since the law was first enacted, a number of inventors and companies have adopted DRM as a tool to keep others from creating better versions of their products. You can't reverse engineer the software, you can't improve on it. If you do, you go to jail, that kind of thing.
Others still would use it as a means to hide security defects from the eyes of other consumers. This can be particularly problematic in the age of the Internet of Things, which sees more and more network-enabled devices added to our lives.
That means cars, heart monitors, insulin pumps, credit card swipers, thermostats, which is probably the best one of all of them, mobile phones. No, sorry, that's the best one of all of them. You know, it's stuff that we use every day. And
thermostats, mobile phones, hard to tell.
It's actually the same thing. Well, do you want to be hot, or do you want to know things?
If only they could put a thermostat on the phone. Quick, copyright it.
And thanks to DRM, anybody can quickly silence people who want to legitimately find out about these things, which many would argue hurts not only other inventors, but also consumers in general.
And that's what this lawsuit is primarily focused on. Technologists and security experts who go around DRM to learn about the deficiencies of products, to determine security vulnerabilities, or to simply innovate on existing technology.
The 2 clients are Andrew Bunny Huang and Matthew Green, who both have a vested ethical interest in being able to circumvent DRM and often find themselves threatened with criminal charges by corporations who'd rather them not poke around in their products, for God's sake.
I hate when people poke around in my product. According to the F, Huang is a computer scientist and hardware hacker whose any TV device would allow people to edit digital video streams by making innovative uses of paid content. Green, on the other hand, is a security researcher at Johns Hopkins who does a lot of work ensuring that Internet of Things devices are protected from hackers, especially in regards to medical devices and financial transactions.
Yeah, medical devices, I totally get. On his blog post about the lawsuit today, Huang wrote, before Section 1201, the ownership of ideas was tempered by constitutional protections. Under this law, we had the right to tinker with gadgets that we bought, we had the right to record TV shows on our VCRs, and we had the right to remix songs. Section 1201 built an extra barrier around copyrightable works, restricting our prior ability to explore and create.
He goes on to compare modern inventors and entrepreneurs to the parable of the frog in the well who has no clue how big and grand the outside world is, all because of DRM. I don't remember DRM being part of that
DRM
parable.
is the well.
Oh, okay.
Green made similar comments on his blog, writing, instead of welcoming vulnerability reports, companies routinely threaten good faith security researchers with civil action or even criminal prosecution. Companies use the courts to silence researchers who have embarrassing things to say about their products or who uncover too many of those products' internal details.
If this lawsuit succeeds, we could see the Supreme Court overturning Section 1201 of the DMCA. That would essentially mean that DRM goes the way of the dodo, or at least the version of DRM protection that exists currently.
Yeah, the problem is it would become very hard for the courts to determine what does and doesn't constitute fair use in regards to DRM. If someone is illegally tampering with software so they can reproduce it, for instance, they could simply claim they were reverse engineering it to understand more of how it works.
So it might mean the only solution is throw out all of Section 1201 out altogether rather than wading into that kind of territory. Of course, it'd be hard to imagine something like this happening without a fight from the entertainment industry, who often views DRM as the very thing keeping their business from going under completely.
Like Hollywood, for example.
All of it.
The music industry.
All of it.
They love the DRMs.
Yep.
But we've seen a number of instances where that's not always the way things play out in the real world. CD Projekt Red, for instance, recently gave a presentation about the misconceptions of DRM and how dropping it has vastly helped The Witcher 3.
With sales surpassing more than 10 million, CD Projekt found that many of the game's pirates eventually end up purchasing the game once they discover how much they love it. For them, the way to actually stop piracy is to ditch DRM altogether.
That being said, we've also seen in other cases that piracy is a very real problem for a lot of smaller studios. But we need a balance that protects consumers, the researchers that want to make us safer, and the inventors making the technology of tomorrow, which is also a very future-y thing to say. Right now, there's not a lot of consensus on whether or not the current DRM protections are accomplishing that.
We'll see if the F's lawsuit can make any headway into making those hopes for technologists and consumers into reality. As far as their chance of success, the F established in their lawsuit that there are two other recent decisions from the Supreme Court where fair use and the protection of the First Amendment were paramount to copyright protection. Their argument is that the court has always ruled in favor of innovation and freedom and should continue to do so.
But judging by how slowly the courts tend to move in instances like this, it's likely that this unicorn world of zero DRM is going to be a ways off in the best case scenario.
I want to live in a world of unicorns.
Charlie the unicorn.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Going to Candy Mountain.
Charlie. What do you guys think of the US government being sued over its DRM laws? Does it have a chance? Let us know in the comments.
And for future conversations about DRM and unicorns, like this video and subscribe to The Know. We're going to Candy Mountain.
Like the unicorns. Like the unicorns.
If you like unicorns, you like The Know. He's a unicorn.
I am.
He likes his assets being protected.
I need an adult.
He's an adult.
Fuck.